Okay, let's learn how to do the Alpine stitch. Okay, so the Alpine stitch is a really neat stitch, and if you're comfortable doing a double crochet stitch and a front post stitch, then this is going to be easy for you. I'm going to do the tutorial for my beginners, so if you don't know how to do those stitches, I'll link in the video an individual video on how to do them, but I think you might be able to catch on in this tutorial. So I did the swatch that you saw in the beginning with a chunky yarn, and it was a multicolored yarn. I'm going to do the tutorial with a single color yarn so that you can really see what I'm doing. Okay, so go ahead and start by making yourself a slip knot and placing that on your hook. I use a 6mm crochet hook, but you use whatever hook coordinates with the yarn that you're using. Start by making yourself a foundation chain of an even number, and then you want to do one more for the first initial stitch. Okay, once you have your foundation chain, let's go ahead and start by making a row of single crochet stitches. So skip that first stitch that's right next to your hook and go into the second stitch, and we're going to start by doing a row of single crochet stitches all the way down. Now this is going to vary based on the length of your project, of course. Okay, so I'm going to do a few on camera and then I'll kind of skip towards the end. And just be forewarned, this tutorial is a little bit longer. I'm going to try to stay on camera a little long. If you catch on really quickly, then you can kind of skip towards the end to see the pattern and how it works. I've also have little markers in the video to show you, row 1, row 2, whichever row I'm working with. So a single crochet stitch, just continue to work that down the foundation chain. And then here you are getting close to the end. Once you get to the end, you want to make sure that you put a single crochet in that very last stitch of the row, okay? Right there. Alrighty. Now, I chain 3 and then turn my work. Some people, when they're doing a double crochet stitch, they chain 2. I've always chained 3, and it's just what I've always done when I create a double crochet. So chain 3 and then turn your work. Okay, so the chain 3 is going to count as your first double crochet stitch. In that next stitch, you're going to create your second double crochet. So yarn over, insert the hook, pull 3, 2, yarn over and pull through the bottom 2. So that's a double crochet stitch, and I'll show you again. All right, and hopefully you can catch on here how to do a double crochet stitch. If not, that's fine. I'll be sure to link in the video of tutorial on how to do a double crochet stitch. So you're going to continue doing the double crochet stitch all the way down the row. Okay, so I'm gonna hop back on here closer to the end. You're going to go ahead and continue to do your double crochet stitch, and I want to just show you when you get to that last stitch of the row, you want to make sure that you put a double crochet stitch there. So we have 2 more stitches, so you have that one, and then you have 1 more at the end of the row. See, right there. Sometimes it can be tricky to see that one, but just make sure you get it there. Good time to count your stitches too, to make sure that you have equal number in each row. That just kind of makes sure your project stays neat and you don't have any a whole lot of fluctuation in the rows. So that's what it was looking like. Chain 1, turn your work, and you're going to go ahead and do a row of single crochet stitches. So in that very first stitch there, you're going to do a single crochet stitch. Okay, and just continue to do a single crochet stitch all the way down the row. Just keep working. All right, and then here, once you get close to the end here, I'm going to just show you really quickly. You'll do a single crochet stitch there, and then you want to make sure you do a single crochet stitch in that chain 3. Alrighty, go in there. Okay, once you have that completed, chain 3 and then turn your work. All right, don't leave me yet. We're getting into the good stuff now, okay? So now we're going to do our first front post stitch. This is row 4, and so you can see where my thumbs are. You're going to do a front post stitch. So that first row of 3, of course, is your double crochet stitch. Now you're going to yarn over and go behind the post so that we can do our front post stitch. Okay, so insert your crochet hook behind that post, yarn over, pull back through, and then complete your double crochet stitch, which is basically yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is, you see the post right there, we're going to go into the stitch right above that post. So it's a little jumbled, but if you pull your work apart just a little, you can see the stitch. You see that? You're going to do a double crochet stitch right there. So basically right above that post, you're going to do a double crochet stitch. This is the trickiest part of the pattern, but I feel like if you do it a few times, you'll catch on. All right, the next stitch, we're going to do another front post stitch. So go over to the next post, and then you're going to do a front post stitch, which is basically yarning over and inserting the crochet hook behind the post. So the post is actually in front of the hook, and then you're going to complete your double crochet stitch. Don't worry, I'm going to stay on camera with you just a little longer here. Right above that post, you see that if you pull it apart, you'll see the next stitch. Right in there, you're going to do your double crochet stitch. So basically what you're doing is you're doing a front post and then a double crochet, a front post and then a double crochet. Okay, so right there again, you're going to do your next front post stitch. So yarn over, insert behind the post, pull through, and then do your double crochet stitch. See that? Let's do it a few more times, because I know when you're trying to catch on to something, sometimes it's easier to see the person continually do it, especially if you're working along with them. Okay, now we're doing the front post, and I'm trying to make sure you can see that. Now, trick thing here, when you do your front post stitch, pull up a little, give your crochet hook a little wiggle so that the yarn is not so tight around the crochet hook. So that's a kind of important step there, especially if you know you crochet really tightly. So I'm just showing you one more time there, and I'll probably show you a few more times on camera because I feel like this is important. If you can get this row and the next couple of rows, you'll really have the pattern down. Okay, so just keep working, following along with the screen. Let's cue some music so you guys can kind of work along, and I'll meet you back in a little bit. Okay, so this is what it's looking like, and I don't know if it's picking up on camera, but there's some real clear definition, some texture in this pattern, so it's really neat, and I love the way this is turning out. Okay, so let me hop back on here real quick so I can just show you really quickly. We have 2 more stitches right here at the end. We just did a front post stitch. Now we're just going to do 2 double crochet stitches. So right above that double crochet stitch that's already there, we're going to do a double crochet stitch, and that's in the stitch right above it, and then to end the row we're going to do another double crochet stitch, and that's how you're going to end your row. Okay, and in that very last stitch we are going to do in the turning chain, we are going to insert the crochet hook. Just kind of stay consistent with where you put your crochet hook, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things for this type of project. Just make a double crochet stitch in that turning chain, and this is what your project should be shaping up to look like. It looks really cool, right? Okay, so now we're going to chain 1 and then turn your work. Okay, and then once your work is turned, you're going to begin doing a row of single crochet stitches. So right there in that very first stitch, go ahead and place your first single crochet stitch. So in between your pattern, so you have row 4, then you have a row of single crochet stitches, which is row 5, and then row 6, you're going to pick your pattern back up again. So essentially the pattern is worked between rows 4, 5, and 6. So it's kind of a repeat pattern. So just remember that if you're coming back to the tutorial, rows 4, 5, and 6. And then again, you want to make sure that you get a stitch into that turning chain. Okay, just hopping back on here at the end again, insert your crochet hook and do a single crochet stitch in that turning chain. Right? And now this is what your pattern should look like. This is row 1 through 5, chain 3, and then turn your work. Okay, so you have your chain 3, there is your front post stitch. You're going on top of that front post stitch in the stitch right above it, you're going to put a double crochet stitch. And I'll show you again, so don't worry. Okay, and then you're going to find your flat stitch or your double crochet stitch, just the regular one, and then that is where you're going to do your front post stitch. So this is just one of those times where you can really probably see it better than I can explain it. Okay, so just finish off your front post stitch. In that, on the next stitch you're going to do is a double crochet stitch, and it's because remember you have a front post stitch, so right above it you're going to do a double crochet. Okay, now the next one is a regular double crochet stitch. You're going to do a front post behind that. So hopefully you're starting to see the pattern here. When you have a raised stitch, you're going to do a double crochet stitch above it. When you have a double crochet stitch, like a flat one, you're going to do a front post. So that's just the way it works. And you really just, once you get to the row that you're working on, just kind of continue with the pattern all the way down. So we just did a excuse me, we just did a front post. Now we're going to do a double crochet stitch. So just kind of keep that in mind. Don't overcomplicate it. Just continue making your front post double crochets all the way down that row. Okay, so just continue working. I'm going to stay on camera a little bit longer so you can just watch me work. I'm going to go ahead and cue some music for you, and we will meet back when I get closer to the end of this row. All right, so I'm going to jump back on. We're close here to the end. Go ahead and finish doing your front post stitch, and then you are going to make sure that you put a double crochet stitch in that turning chain. So just if your project is a little jumbled up like mine did, just kind of work it out. It won't hurt anything. And then just go ahead and make sure you put that double crochet stitch in that chain. Now, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but I really like this crochet hook. I think it's by Susan Bates. I'm not sponsored by her or anything like that, but by that company or anything. But if you look there really closely, it has like a point on it, and that really is very useful when you're working in a tight stitch. So I just want to share that. So chain 1, turn your work, and now you're going to do what? A row of single crochet stitches. So this is what we're doing. And just continue doing a row of single crochet stitches all the way down. Okay, so at this point we're kind of working into the repetitive part of the pattern. So you're going to go ahead and do a chain of single crochet stitches. Once you get to the end, you want to make sure that you get a single crochet stitch in that turning chain, chain 3, and then you're going to start your next row. So I'm not going to stay on camera for all of this, but I do want you to get the point that in between the pattern there is a row of single crochet stitches. Okay, and this is what it's looking like. So just keep working, and then here again we're getting to the end of that row, and you're just going to do another single crochet stitch. Okay, so chain 3 and then turn your work, and we're going to continue the pattern. So remember, now looking here, you can see that that's a flat stitch. So that's just a regular, say flat stitch, but just a regular double crochet stitch. If it's a regular double crochet stitch, then we're going to create a front post stitch. So remember that first chain of 3 is your first double crochet, and we're going to go ahead and do a front post stitch. So in this pattern, if you have just a regular double crochet stitch, then you're going to do a front post stitch behind it. On top of your front post stitches, you're going to do a double crochet stitch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this project up. It's kind of like the song that never ends. I keep going and going. So this is row 8. When you get to the end of the row, which I show you right here, you're going to remember to do a double crochet stitch in the very last chain, and then you would just continue to do your process. Your next row would be a row of single crochets, and then you would continue your pattern. So your pattern is going to be between rows 4, 5, and 6, and that's what you're going to repeat until you get to the desired length of your project. So I hope this video was helpful for you all. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section down below. This is what the project looks like. And this here is from row 1 all the way to row 8. I hope you guys enjoy working in this pattern as much as I enjoyed showing it to you. Let me show you one more time what it looks like using that bulky yarn. And honestly, guys, I cannot wait to do a blanket with this pattern. All right, I'll see you all in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.